Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Wolf-Watz and I'm the author of 4 self-published books and 2 self-published tour guides. Last time we talked about writing and the writing process. I explained what I do when I write, and this time we'll be talking about editing, and I'll explain how I do when I edit. And I am by no means an expert yet, hoping to get there someday, but this is just the method that I find that works for me, and I would love to hear if you have another different kind of method, and also if you have a way to make editing fun, because that's been the most difficult part for me. I love writing, I think it's so much fun, but once I get into editing, it kind of kills a little bit for me. So I'd love to hear your suggestions on that in the comment section below. So the first thing that I do once I find that I have a script with the start and a middle and an end, is that I do a spell check. And it might seem like a totally obvious thing to do, but from what I hear from people who are in publishing business and who are writing themselves, is that a lot of people forget to do this. So do a spell check when it shows you that you've misspelled something or that you have a grammar issue. You realize that maybe the sentence is really weird, or it might be a better way of phrasing something. I can't speak. I tend to put the whole document in Google Docs, and I do this for 2 purposes. One is that Google Docs has another kind of spell check, which sometimes finds things that, for instance, OpenOffice doesn't find, or the other way around. So it's always good to use 2, and after I put it there, I also like to do word count. This is particularly if you have a program that's not very advanced, maybe if you're just using notes, for instance. Google Docs makes it easier to navigate through your document and also to see how many words you have there. This is the part in the process where using notes just isn't good enough. This is when you kind of want to go into OpenOffice at least, or maybe Google Docs if you don't have OpenOffice, though it's free to download. Works for both Mac and PC, and no, I'm not sponsored by them. But anyway, this is where you want to be able to see how many words you've got. You want to be able to move through your chapters more easily. You need word count and you need navigation. This makes editing way easier than trying to find your way in notes, for instance. A second reason why I put on Google Docs is that it makes it easier for me to share the document. So I share it with my first beta reader, my friend Linnea, who I can trust to be honest but kind. Constructive criticism rather than brutal honesty. So I prefer to have her read my documents first. I think that's a general tip for everyone who's kind of nervous about showing their work for the first time, is ask a friend who's kind and honest at the same time, if you are fortunate to have one of those. I am so. And while Linnea is reading, I usually start on another project, because I find that it's difficult to finish something unless there's something new going on. I tend to not want to finish a project because I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so I want to make it as good as I can, and as you all know, that never really happens. You can go through something like 50 times, you can still find errors, still make improvements. I mean, when I read books now, it's become a work injury basically. It's just that when I read something now, I kind of analyze their language. And I notice that there are errors. Even writers who've been writing for 20 years, you'll find errors. And they have 1 or 2 independent editors, they have like a publishing group, doesn't matter. Errors get through. So you want to kind of minimize the amount of errors. I think that's the best you can do. You will have to go through the script many times, but there's a risk, I find, that if I don't have something else, another project that I'm excited about, I never really think that I've gone through the old script enough times. So it's always good to have something else like waiting for you to finish the first one. When I get the comments from Linnea, I go through the script and I make the changes that she suggested, or I don't, depending on what I think. Usually she points out when something isn't clear, when there is something that's a bit odd or off or doesn't make sense, and so I can correct that and rewrite it in another way that makes it easier to understand. I make it more to the point usually. Then I put the document back into OpenOffice to continue editing, and what I do next is something that is one of the most important parts of the process, I find, for me at least. It's also one of the most boring parts of the process. I wouldn't say it's soul crushing, but it's very close to soul crushing. And that is going through the script in search of useless or overused words. So you'll find that you have verbal tics. We all do. And we all tend to overuse certain words in our writing. I do that a lot as well. Sarah Cannon at Heartbreedings, she has this document where she kind of goes through self-editing, and she has a list of overused or useless words we put in our scripts, and it's a great list. I recommend you to check out her site and heartbreedings.com. I think she's on YouTube as well, and just download that list because it has a lot of really useful tips and words. I've also noticed that I have other words that are not on the list that I tend to use a lot, like sigh, for instance. My characters sigh a lot. They also shrug a lot, shake their heads a lot. Yeah, you'll find that you have certain words that you tend to use a bit too much. Just, for instance, just is just everywhere. It has so many different uses, but sometimes you can just delete it or replace it with only or merely, or this is where a thesaurus is very useful to have. I have a massive thesaurus that I can just look through and be like, okay, I'll use this word instead. And usually it makes the sentence way better, because a lot of words that we tend to use to overuse are very bland. Like, they say something but they're not very precise, and sometimes when you're going through a script and you're looking for those kind of words, you can replace them with something that's a lot more to the point and makes the feeling or the message that you want to convey that much clearer. So it's really good to do. That's like the only saving grace for this part of the process, is that you can see how much better your script gets for every word that you go through. But yeah, if you have any suggestions to make this more fun, then let me know in the comment section, because I'm struggling. And after I've done that, I do a final spell check, because you will have changed your sentences like going through them. I often find that my sentences are too long, like I use an overcomplicated way of saying something, so tend to shorten them, make them more to the point, and then sometimes I make spelling errors, and I don't know how it happens, because I think that I'm writing the right thing, but I forget a letter or something, and then going through the spell check again makes me sure that I haven't missed anything. And then as soon as that's done, I move it into the publishing, because it's still not done. Like, I will still have editing left to do, but I think of it as a final editing, and just psychologically and emotionally very important to me. I think especially after going through and deleting so many words, I get to see the publishing program. I get to feel like, oh, this is actually turning into a book. So I'll go more into that next time when I talk about final editing and publishing. That's basically my process from a first or second draft to putting it into the publishing program. And I will say also, kind of encouraging words, if you are doing your first script and you are going through the useless words and you're just like, how can I even use this many even? Is that it gets better. You learn what you tend to overuse, and then you stop using those words. Whenever I'm writing just, I'm like, don't go there. You just have to delete it later on. And you will find that you stop yourself before you overuse the words again. So it gets much easier. I think after the third book, I massively downsized the number of sighs and justs and reallys and varies and all of that. Though you will also notice another work injury is that you will find that a lot of writers have not gone through their scripts, and it makes it sometimes difficult when you've like gone through all of your useless words and you try to read a book and then you find that they have just in like every single paragraph on the page. But that's I think that's the least problematic part of learning this process. It is very gratifying to see your finished work in the publishing program, so that it actually feels like a book. Depending on what program you have, we'll talk about that next time as well. You can see like a preview, and it makes it feel like you're actually writing a book. We'll talk more about that next time. Until then, leave me your suggestions in the comment section below. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!